London has long been seen as a symbol of success. A global financial hub, a magnet for talent, and one of the wealthiest cities on the planet. Its economy alone is worth over $600 billion, placing it among the world's largest if it were measured as an independent state. On paper, London appears to represent the best of what Britain has to offer. But this prosperity is not shared evenly. London and South East England generate close to half of the entire UK economy, despite accounting for only about a third of the population. This concentration of wealth creates a distorted national picture, where one region thrives while much of the country struggles to keep pace. If London's economic output were removed, living standards across Britain would fall sharply. Average income levels would drop by roughly 14%, pushing the country close to the bottom among developed economies. This stark contrast highlights how dependent the UK has become on a single urban core. Over the past decade, everyday life has become noticeably harder for most British households. Real disposable income, meaning income after taxes and benefits, has barely changed. Meanwhile, the cost of goods, services, and housing has continued to rise, steadily eroding purchasing power. Productivity growth has also stalled. Britain now ranks among the weakest performers in productivity within the developed world. At the same time, housing costs have soared, making home ownership increasingly unreachable for younger generations and driving homelessness to record levels. These problems did not emerge suddenly. They are the result of long-standing political and economic decisions that compounded over time. Britain did not collapse overnight, it drifted slowly into stagnation. There is a deep irony in this trajectory. The United Kingdom was the first nation to industrialize, pioneering modern manufacturing and global trade. Today, it risks becoming one of the first major economies to experience prolonged deindustrialization. Prices have continued to climb faster than wages. Housing costs alone have increased by thousands of pounds in a single year for many households. Despite the scale of these changes, much of this deterioration has received limited attention. The roots of Britain's decline trace back to the global financial crisis of 2008. Like other advanced economies, the UK was severely impacted. But the policy choices that followed shaped its long-term outcome. The government borrowed heavily to rescue the banking system, committing more than £100 billion to stabilise financial institutions. Instead of following this intervention with broad social or fiscal investment, policymakers chose austerity. Public spending was cut. Wages stagnated. There were no major housing programs, no significant minimum wage growth, and no serious effort to shield households from rising costs. For ordinary citizens, the effects were immediate and lasting. Household income fell and then remained flat for over a decade. Economists refer to this period as a lost decade, but in Britain's case, it stretched even longer. Living standards failed to recover in any meaningful way. Before the crisis, British households were only slightly less prosperous than those in countries like Norway and the United States. In the years that followed, that gap widened dramatically. Today, British households lag far behind their peers in real income terms. This decline has been especially visible among the middle class. Real household income is a core driver of economic stability. It fuels consumer spending, supports businesses, and sustains growth. When it stagnates, the entire economy slows. Despite this, economic policy continued to prioritize corporate interests. Even there, the gains were short-lived. Little was done to improve long-term productivity, the most effective engine of sustainable growth. Productivity does not mean working longer hours. It means producing more value with the same effort. When economies shift from low-margin sectors to high-value industries, productivity rises naturally. This is why advanced manufacturing and technology sectors matter. Countries like Japan have converted farmland into industrial zones to boost output and competitiveness. Britain, by contrast, failed to make similar investments. After 2008, productivity growth collapsed and never recovered. Data from leading economic institutions shows a clear break in trend. Before the crisis, productivity rose steadily. Afterward, it flattened. Britain's workforce now ranks near the bottom of the G7 in productivity, a dramatic reversal from its previous position. The combined effects of weak productivity and stagnant income explain much of Britain's economic fragility. The country has been operating in survival mode rather than pursuing growth. What makes this more striking is the lack of political acknowledgement. For years, none of the major parties openly addressed the scale of the problem. The issue remained largely absent from public debate. Instead, frustration manifested in other ways. Brexit became an outlet for economic anxiety, even though it did not address the underlying causes. In fact, the uncertainty surrounding Brexit worsened an already difficult situation. Foreign investment declined sharply after the referendum. Businesses delayed decisions. Capital flowed elsewhere. According to official estimates, investment fell by roughly a quarter in the years following Brexit. Before the economy could stabilize, another shock arrived. The COVID pandemic forced the government to intervene once again, borrowing hundreds of billions of pounds to support households and businesses. At the time, this borrowing appeared manageable. Interest rates were near zero, and debt servicing costs were low. Few anticipated how quickly conditions would change. The war in Ukraine triggered a global energy crisis. Sanctions and supply disruptions sent oil and gas prices soaring across Europe. In Britain, household energy bills were projected to triple. To prevent widespread hardship, the government stepped in again with large-scale subsidies. While this shielded households in the short term, it came at a heavy cost. Tens of billions of pounds were added to national debt. As inflation surged, central banks raised interest rates. For households, mortgage payments jumped overnight. For the government, debt servicing costs exploded. Annual interest payments on Britain's debt rose from around £40 billion to nearly £100 billion. This increase alone rivals the entire defence budget, diverting resources away from public services. Healthcare, infrastructure, and social programs all suffered as funds were redirected to service debt. The quality of public services declined as a result. Beyond debt, Britain faces another structural problem: its workforce. Unlike other advanced economies, labour participation never fully recovered after the pandemic. Millions of people are classified as economically inactive. Some are students. Others suffer from long-term illness or retired early. Many are unable to work due to caregiving responsibilities. In total, the workforce is missing more than 10 million people. This reduces tax revenue while increasing demand for social support, placing further strain on the system. To compensate, Britain opened its borders to large-scale immigration. Migrant workers filled labour shortages, particularly in essential sectors. However, the speed and scale of this change intensified social tensions. Rapid demographic shifts unsettled parts of the population, and some political actors exploited these fears. Protests and unrest emerged in several cities, reflecting deeper anxieties about economic security and national identity. While tensions have eased, the underlying issues remain unresolved. Britain's economic story has become one of cascading crises, each amplifying the next. Financial shock, political upheaval, pandemic, energy crisis, and demographic strain combined into a single downward spiral. There is no immediate solution. Structural decline cannot be reversed overnight. The choices that led here were made over decades. Despite this, Britain is not without strengths. London remains one of the most innovative and wealthy cities in the world. Over time, recovery is possible. But until fundamental issues are addressed, much of the country will continue to struggle. Britain today functions like a weakened economy tethered to a powerful urban core. This is the reality of a nation adjusting to the consequences of delayed decisions and accumulated crises.